Good afternoon. My name's Jim Pearson. I'm from the youth offending team within Essex. I'm currently seconded to the Violence and Vulnerability Unit. I've been asked to come and speak to you today about the problems and the risks and concerns that relate to online gaming and young people, children, how they can be drawn into this, and what we as parents and people who are looking after being around children can do to help with that. So just to give you a brief insight, the reason I've been asked to do this today is, as probably as you see behind me, I am a massive super fan of games. I've been playing games since probably, I was trying to work it out earlier, about 30 years now. Started off on the BBC Micro, and it's been something that's been part of my life forever. So I really want to start this off with is that actually games aren't terrible. They're not the worst thing in the world. It's an amazing hobby. So for me, it's introduced me to new people. I've really had brilliant experiences. It's just like the most creative, really exciting thing to be involved with, particularly now as things are going further and further. But the other side of that is that I play rugby. I've got lots of friends. I go out. Some of the old stereotypes of people into games are like, lonely weirdos who sit in the house and don't do anything other than game. Well, that's not really the way it is. That's kind of just a lazy stereotype. Gaming is an amazing hobby. It's an amazing experience, but it's about how we deal with it and how we work with it with our children. And I think that's what's really important. Some of the things I want to get across today is that as much as gaming is amazing, as much as it is brilliant, there are people out there who will use it as a method, as a model, to exploit, groom children for exploitation, sexual exploitation, maybe moving into the world of getting them involved in serious youth violence. And also game developers aren't innocent in all of this in using some clever psychological tricks in making young people more addicted to games. And so we'll touch on first about online exploitation and the risks of that, and then about some of the risks about the way that games are monetized, which means getting kids to spend money, getting them to spend your money. We all heard stories about people who have not known how the games work, and then the kid's gone and spent £16,000, on V-Bucks or something like that. So it's really learning and understanding how these things work. And also one of the biggest concerns for me at the moment is the way that something called loot boxes work and how that can maybe shape young minds into the views of a positive view of gambling and things like that. So there's lots of things to understand. As I said, I really want to start from this as a place that gaming can be a great hobby, but it's about, as parents, being aware of the risks of it as well, so that they can enjoy it in the best way and safely. And I think that's really important to stress that that safety is really important. So when we talk about games, there's kind of starting the place. There's just really basics. There's two really important distinctions to make. There's two different types of gaming experiences in that we call it offline and online gaming. So for me these days, being a bit older, got a job, got all my rugby stuff to do, I tend to play a lot more offline gaming, sorry. And the reason for that is I just can dip in and out. I don't have to be there at specific times. It's not so addictive. It's not so something that I find so challenging. And unfortunately, being a bit older, your reaction times kind of slow down, so you can't compete at that same level. So I play a lot of games that aren't online, aren't connected with other people, and don't use the internet. And so then you've got the other side of it, which is online gaming. So as you see in the background, Fortnite is a key exponent of that. So that's where massively multiplayer games where you've got 80 to 100 people playing against each other, the ability to chat with each other, connect, get in there and work with each other. So that's a really basic distinction. So when we talk about offline games, tend to be interactive experiences where young people won't interact with others and could be seen in many ways as much safer. But obviously, a lot of young people these days want to engage in the online world because it's a way of making friends, it's a way of keeping in contact. And I think in the experiences we've been through with COVID, online gaming has been a really way for helping people stay connected. So again, there's a positive to it, it's helped people stay connected, but it's learning about how we do that safely. So if we look at some of the most popular games right now out there, so obviously Fortnite is one of those, Minecraft is a hugely popular game which can be played online, and shared servers, shared seeds, all of those sorts of things where people can interact around each other. For the younger age groups, Roblox is in there, which is kind of like, it's not something I've really experienced, but it's a game I think where you can create other games, share with others, share experiences and worlds. You've got FIFA, which is massively popular with a lot of people, so playing sports games against each other. For those, maybe as they get a bit older, you've got the new Modern Warfare, so you've got kind of shooting games, Overwatch. Riot Games has just released something called Valiant, which is going to be huge. So I think, there's lots of different games out there that are really, really popular, but all, if you look at the top 10 of the most popular games at the moment, they all tend to have a online experience or an online bit which most people are interested. And if you look at the platforms that people play them on, so the traditional ones that we often think about that a lot of people have got in their homes, so PlayStation 4, Xbox. Obviously, we're coming up to a new release schedule as well, so coming up towards Christmas, we're probably more than likely going to get a PS5 and a new Xbox, which will really drive that forward again. And I think over lockdowns, the Nintendo Switch has been hugely successful in selling up those as well. I've got a Nintendo Switch, I love it. And I think a tip for parents to remember is that Nintendo have always been super aware of their role in tackling online exploitation. I think they're probably not thought in that way, but you can connect with friends, but you actually have to really know them in real life to share friend codes to make sure that they're possible. So the Nintendo Switch is possibly on the safer end of that. So for me, I'm a big proponent of the Nintendo Switch. I actually have got every console as well. And then, as also some people play their games on PC. But one of the biggest things to remember is that there's a huge world on their phones as well with gaming. So actually, we talk about the PS4, the Xbox, Switch, PC. The biggest share of computer gaming market is dominated by Apple and Google with their Android and Apple ecosystem. And one of the things for that is to always remember is that many of the games that are on mobile, so mobile platforms are often what are known as free to play. So your child may say that, I download this thing, it's free, you don't have to pay anything. But actually the gameplay loops that are built within it are designed for what we call monetization. So they're designed for you to spend money, and the whole gameplay loop is designed around that. So you might see some pester power. So to bear in mind that you may they may be playing games on their PlayStation 4, but they'll also have them on their phones, and so that's really something to be aware of. So to really talk about online exploitation, it's to really think about what that looks like, how it can happen, and some of the reasons why, and the things that you can do to prevent it really. So online exploitation could be for a number of reasons through gaming. It can be so sexual exploitation, the sharing of images, contact through that. It can be the start of the grooming process, so where they start grooming young people into sharing and becoming involved in relationships that they're not ready or not suitable for them, and also grooming towards serious youth violence. So we know that the platforms can be used a lot for trying to get people involved in criminality. So that sounds like really scary, but luckily there are lots of ways to prevent it. So what happens is, so for example, we use Fortnite as the most easiest example. It's probably the biggest game out there and a lot of people are engaged in it. So in Fortnite you've got 70, 80 people going onto a map. Within that, people can share access codes, so they can share invites to become friends, so they can chat, because I think battle royales, as that's called, they work best when you coordinate, particularly if you're playing in pairs. So people might start being drawn into you, sending you friend requests, sending you the opportunity to chat, and start trying to get engaged with your children. And as a child, you might be thinking, well, excellent, he's going to help me get better, or he's going to help me as we move through this map, without thinking through the consequences that we as adults know. Think about what the motives behind that. So it's really interesting in the way that it works, in that because Um, the Fortnite environment works towards people being pushed up leaderboards, or their cosmetic enhancements, so they might look very different, so you can see very visually that they may be a higher skilled player. And because of the way that we'll go on to talk about streaming, is that there's kind of very much a fandom built around this game, is that if a person with a high value within the game approaches you as a young person and they ask to be your friend, you may feel very flattered by that because they are part of what's seen as the hierarchy within the game, and actually so it loses and disinhibits some of the real concerns that that young person might have, that because they think, oh well, they're really good at Fortnite, so I'll get involved in that. So for me, one of the things to really start doing and start checking with is that it's really easy when you're having these conversations. So make sure the conversations are there when you're talking about their gaming profiles, talking to them about, do you know this person in real life? Look through all their friend lists and see from them and ask them, oh, who's that? And who's that? And see if they know them in real life. And I think it's really important that for any age really, is to make friends with only people that they know in real life, because that's how we share experiences within the game, is so that we can talk to them offline as well. And that's where some of the risks come in online only based relationships. So try and make sure that your children go through them, have open and honest conversations. Oh, who's that? Who's that? And check these new friend requests as they come in, or chat logs. So make sure that it's probably a really good way to do it is at the end of each gaming session. So I know a lot of you parents set down screen times. So at the end of that period of screen time, just have set aside 5 minutes to ask them how the game went. Did they do well tonight? What was going on? Who was doing well? And then just go through any new friend requests. Check who's coming through. So because then actually you can find out who's on there. That brings us on to the second part that's really important. Gaming's changed a little bit at the moment. It used to be when I started that the game would be everything that would be on you, and you would be focused on that. So, and I do this myself now, in that I'll be playing a game, and so if I do go online and meet some of my friends who I do play with, then at the same time, if I'm playing on, say, my Switch or on my PlayStation, I'll have my phone on my knee at the side of me. And the reason I've got that is because I'll be using what's known as an offline chat service. And I generally use Discord, which is one of the most popular apps. But for younger children and for children in general, it's can be a real risk for that, because obviously it's much harder for parents if you don't know about Discord or Kiwi. It's much harder to understand what to do about that. So because you can't see it as easy. But what it is that someone sends out a code, which becomes a Discord server, which people then can join, and you can talk about all that information. One of the things with Discord, as well, is that once you put a message on there, if you delete it, then it's deleted from the server forever. So people use it sometimes as a way of anonymously chatting. I think one of the ways that we've seen it used in exploitation is that Discord servers can be kind of viewed again. This is something to really get into your mindset, is that there's a hierarchy and a fandom around online gaming, is that a Discord server can gain a lot of a strong reputation. And if someone is looking to exploit or looking to take advantage of a young person, and they've got a high reputation, they might reach out to, say, 4 friends that they've met on Fortnite, and then say invite only one of them into this gated community of a Discord server. There's a link to Breck's game at the end which talks about some of this as well. So what they do is they let them into this gated community, and that one person out of his 3 friends who's been let in feels very like they're very popular, feels that they've moved up the hierarchy, feels that they can learn a lot. And there's often the use of what's known as in Fortnite V-Bucks, and gives an inducements to get people to join them as well, so they feel that they get something out of them, get to feel special. So as parents, make sure that you understand, like I said, check with them, talk with your children about Discord, find about do they use any offline chat services. One of the reasons for using it is because in the game now they've worked really hard to moderate. So Fortnite particularly is really good at this, is moderating chat behaviour, moderating language, moderating bullying, and they're really quick and quite hot on basically cutting people off, taking them off the game if they breach the rules and regulations. So people are starting to move on to, as I said, offline chat services. So making sure that you're aware when you're having that 5 minute catch up with your person, your child or whoever you're looking after, make sure that you're really getting into them about what is that. Are you using any other apps to work alongside this? Who else are you chatting with? Because with Discord again, people can hide behind anonymity within there, in that you don't know who that person is. They hide behind usernames, and they can be linked to lots of different accounts. So, again, Discord is brilliant. It's really great for me, like connecting with my friends who I haven't seen for ages. But again, it's all about how we use it, making sure it's used correctly, making sure it's policed by you, making sure that we're getting that fine line between, privacy and safety, and making sure it's just that the young people are safe. If you do allow them to use it, making sure you understand what they're using it for. So that's something that's really starting to come up, and then that ties into the kind of the third part of the ecosystem that we're really kind of push around the online safety at the moment, which is streaming services. It's not something that I really understand, but a lot of young people these days spend a lot of time watching other people play games. So for me, my experience is I love playing games. I don't really understand why I'd want to watch another person play a game, but it seems to be something that's really popular right now. And there are some real big celebrities, people who get 4 to 5 million views on every stream that they do about playing games, and that's where some of the exploitation also could start, and also links back into our offline chats. So within the comment section, people will comment, start talking about what's going on the streaming. They'll be talking about what's going on. So you're looking at Twitch, YouTube. I know Facebook's now trying to move into the streaming services now. And then that's where another place where you may see the sharing of codes for Discord servers. So people might get linked into it through there. So you might have set your parental controls on YouTube and think that it's really safe. You might set them on Twitch, think that it's really safe. They're just watching videos of other people playing games, and that may be the case. But it's also important to make sure that you're checking what their comments are, what their any conversations they're having within the comments section. So making sure, because that's where sometimes that people can be dragged off again into this walled garden of Discord servers and other services to the side. So it's really important to make sure that we're really aware of how our children are interacting in this kind of ecosystem of all the different interlocking parts of that. So that's kind of like a really short snapshot of just being about the safety of working around online exploitation. And as I keep saying, that gaming is a amazing hobby, and the people who are out there looking to exploit other young people, it's not a large percentage of the people who play games, but because they are there, it's really important that we're having these conversations and making sure we've got an open dialogue. And it's really important that gaming doesn't become a barrier between your child and yourself. So one of the things I wanted to just link into that is that understanding like the psychological loops that game developers to understand your child's behaviour. So I've got a nephew who loves gaming, loves coming around to my house, because he knows that I've got all the latest tech. But I know that for him, I've seen it where he can get like uber competitive when he's on gaming services, particularly Fortnite, and that can bring out temper tantrums within him. It could get him really angry. I've seen him play in other games where the loss of certain things gets people really angry within that. And asking him to stop as well. Actually asking him to stop is a really difficult process because they're just so into that zone. And so that's where developers, one of the things that they've done is that they've used some of the same kind of feedback loops constantly that we see in other services that try and make you addicted or a constant consumer of their product. So what they do is that, so taking for example Fortnite, it does this really well. It's a constant iteration of you get better, you get better, you get better. So every action has a reaction which makes you feel more engaged within the environment, makes you feel more involved within it, so you can change your characteristics of your character, you can develop your a kill death ratio, which is like a huge really important. So you can see these constant, so it's a constant feedback loop. If you get better, you do this, you get something, you get a reward, you get better, you get better. And the minute to minute gameplay within something like a battle royale is that constant search for, you know, a better weapon, a better this, a better. So it's a constant feedback loop, and that's where it's important to give some time so that you set a really clear timeline. So it's kind of like, I'm going to give you the screen time for this period, and then we can have a little 5 minute chat, like debrief, to talk about it, talk about some of the things we've talked about, and then give them some time as well to kind of decompress afterwards. Give them some time to really think about, you know, what's going on, calm down, because actually, for me, that's one of the reasons I don't play online so much, is that I don't have the time, but also the intensity of it is too much for me now. I play games to relax, but actually, you know, because online gaming is so intense because of these feedback loops of the constant stimulation. If you've ever seen Fortnite, it's very garish colours, it's very bright, it's very active, it's very in your face. And I said that then there's this constant feedback loop of constant progress, constant reward, and then the constant kind of, even if you fail, you can see where you can move on to the next level. So it's a very stimulating process. So making sure that, you know, if we're talking about playing Fortnite or playing any game, that you have some decompression time afterwards before going to bed, because I think that's a really important thing as well. So one of the last things we're talking about feedback loops is that some of you may have heard about, some of you may have seen them, is loot boxes. Loot boxes is a huge problem within gaming at the moment. It's very contentious. I hate it. I think it's an awful experience that they've brought into gaming, but it's very prevalent for anyone whose parents who know who've got children who play FIFA. So a loot box in that example would be FIFA Ultimate Teams, where you pay money to buy basically a pack of cards with footballers on, almost like an online Panini stickers is probably the best way to make that comparison. And what they do, so the young person will buy these stickers, they then may get one really good player out of 10 of these, but they may be kind of like 9 duplicates or 9 really low skill players. And so it's starting to disinhibit people to the idea of paying money for a game of chance, and that's equivalent of what gambling is. It's a game of chance. So that's one of the things that we need to think about, is that you wouldn't give your child £10 to go down and put in the fruit machine, whereas loot boxes is very similar to that experience. So loot boxes, I mean, Ultimate Teams is a little bit different, as I said, because you get the sticker pack, but some of them that you'll buy a loot box and it'll flash up the same way as a fruit machine would. It'll flash all the different things, and then you get a random selection of items out of that. You may get kind of, say, if you're imagining Destiny 2, you may get one very rare item out of that, but to get that one very rare item, you may have had to spend £12-15 on different loot boxes. It's interesting to note that there's a select committee looking at the concept of loot boxes at the moment, about the prospect of gambling, and in 16 other countries around the world they've already been banned in games because of the research that's tending to show that it can disinhibit and make young people more acceptable to the idea of gambling in the future. So it's just something to consider when thinking about games. If you're giving money as presents or as as a reward, and they're spending it on what can be identified as loot boxes, then just think about, talking to them about, well, you have to remember this is a game of chance, and just making them really aware that gambling's a bad thing and that this is just a one-off experience. If they get too hooked into the loop of constantly trying to put money in to get that one rare item, then that's something that you have to be really conscious about as well. So I think it's really important when we think about what you can do to deal with this. And I think, as I said, for me, it's about having those conversations with your child, not making gaming, because gaming, I know and I'm aware of this, can become something that become a constant fight and a battle between parents and their young people, is about the amount of screen time, who they're chatting with, and you know, for people who've not been involved, because gaming's only kind of really taken off in the last generation, so people whose parents have maybe been a bit older might not have experienced gaming in the same way. It's something that's out of the realms of understanding, and you know they've made things really complicated these days. So I think it's really important just to be able to have those open conversations, talk through with them. Who are you chatting to today? Make sure that you're chatting up, working out who they're going through, who's new friend requests, but do it on a friendly, non-confrontational basis to really understand and build it into. Did you enjoy that experience today? What was really difficult? Understand where they're coming from. And as I said, like Fortnite, Overwatch, all these sorts of games can be really intense. Build into the time that you're getting the chance to spend with them, just a chance to decompress, understand how they're feeling after it, and give them some support. Because I think if we don't, then that gaming can become something that becomes a real risk to their mental health in this time. Because as I said, it's a great way to connect, but only when it's done properly. So it's about making sure with that privacy versus safety. You know, checking their offline, understanding that that you want to see their phones if that's the way you do it, or want to see what services they're using, understand what new apps they've downloaded. So looking out for things like Discord. As I said, that all these things are just tools that exist out there. They're not inherently bad, but it's the people who use them that can be. So it's about understanding how your young person's using it and how other people are using it towards them. So really having the ability to understand and have those open conversations about gaming. Don't make it something that becomes between you. I know, as I said, the battles over screen time, and I think my favourite one all the time, and I can remember even when I was younger I used to do this, is that you will be told a million times that you can't save in the middle of an online game, and that is true, but they're probably not going to fit their kill death ratio if they have to stop it. So making sure we're really clear on boundaries as well. So making sure that boundaries all the time on sort of, no, we need to stop now because you need to take some time to decompress and think about it and just relax before you go to bed or before you go on to move into the next family activity you're doing or whatever. So, there's lots of things to think about, but it's really about making gaming part of a positive thing for them, making it something that's a reward, making it something that's really important to them, but also making sure that we understand how they're using it and how they're using it with other people. So I hope people found that really useful today, and I hope people don't mind listening. If there's any further questions, then please, read through what else we've got coming out this week through the Essex Safeguarding Board. Loads of information around online safety. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.